People can be ignorant and think that there's no racism in WWE when they have essentially an all-white writing room led by all-white people. People want to assume that everything's just fine and dandy. Yes, of course, there's some racism in WWE. Of course, there's some racism. But it's what they do with the racism that's important, per se. What I mean is, you can have a stereotype here and there. Just don't make fun of it. Don't make light of it. And don't make that particular person or group of people feel lower than everybody else. Street Fighter. Street Fighter the game has racism in some way, shape, or form. Tekken has racism in some way, shape, or form. A lot of video games do have some sort of racism where they take a type of person and they stereotype them into being an extreme version of themselves. It's not uncommon. But what this person is about to say is that WWE themselves believes that there's no racism. Now, WWE has no racism like Japan has no racism. Japan believes what they're doing with other ethnicities is not right or wrong, but just entertainment for their own group of people. When they put on, of course, blackface for the Japanese people, when they have white people on there only for pure entertainment but nothing else beyond the scenes, when they have Indian people riding magic carpets, that kind of stuff. To them, it's not racism. It's just using another race for an extension for entertainment. That's why you barely ever see any actual Japanese people who look Japanese in anime. You will only see white-ish, not only, but majority see white-ish characters who look white-ish but speaking Japanese. And having traditions in Japanese culture even though they look white per se, like in Gintama or Kotakame. They rarely if ever look actually Japanese in anime. Because in Japan, they don't like to put their own people as a form of entertainment, for the most part. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. But in WWE, they don't think that WWE themselves is racist. They themselves are using other races for an extension for entertainment. Kind of like the New Day and Street Profits and, of course, Crime Time. So here is someone else speaking on that particular subject.
Brought it up to people who work as WWE producers, and they told me to my face, "Oh, you're being ridiculous. There's no racism in wrestling. There's no racism in WWE." And I was like, "Oh, we can't even have a conversation because you're disregarding my feelings and you're disregarding my truth because you don't want to see it." And hopefully that we don't see that anymore.
Ron, how do you feel about a tag team like the Street Profits?
It rides in the middle for me because I think they play it well. I think some of it is a mix of I think it seems like that's kind of how authentically they are, and I think it gets kind of pushed up and it kind of works with Vince McMahon's wheelhouse. However, again, I just hope it is their beginning and not their whole career. Because when I see Angelo Dawkins, he reminds me of a young D'Lo Brown. And it seems like he could do so many great things in the ring. And when I see Montez Ford, and I know who his wife is, and I go, that's money all day. That man looks like a Shawn Michaels to me. And so to me, that's what I want to see, is him have the opportunity to become like a Shawn Michaels and not have to hold a plastic cup and come up with a catchphrase and dance his whole career. If he wants to dance in his 20s, I get it. People like to do that. But as you get older, that's my only issue with the New Day. They have never progressed past what they are. They are just an entertaining group to throw pancakes, and those are three of the most entertaining, hardworking, best wrestlers going. And you can't tell me that if Big E was a different color, he wouldn't be draped in gold because he looks like $1 million. He has it. Big E white is Otis. So, and Otis already got money in the bank. So I don't. To me, there's
True.
just these things that you see and you go, there's no reason why they aren't pushed other than we know the reason
Somewhat.
why they aren't pushed.
Or maybe even like a Bobby Lashley. Bully and I talked about when Bobby Lashley made his debut that, hey, we see him in the main event with Brock Lesnar based on the backgrounds, the MMA and stuff like that. I mean, you look at a Bobby Lashley and you kind of scratch your head and say, why the corny storylines as opposed to being in a main event match at WrestleMania going up against Brock Lesnar for a championship?
Yeah, not only why the corny. I mean, if we're going to get into it, I'll get into it because it's not only a corny storyline.
This is going to get nasty. You have been warned.
It's a storyline steeped in racist history of the white woman falling for the black man and falling under this mysticism, and she can't get away from the BBD. Like, it's a whole thing, and we have that same thing. One of my biggest issues in all of wrestling is I love Ron Killings, but people love R-Ttuth and they love that character, and rightfully so. He is amazing, but people refuse to recognize that is a character that comes from minstrel show history. That is a character that comes from Step and Fetch. That is a character that comes from a black man lowering himself to look like he doesn't know what day it is, that he doesn't know what event he's at. And you can play it like, oh, maybe he's had a lot of concussions, and you can do whatever you want with that. I know the history of that character. That is a racist minstrel show character that he does a great job with. And it's probably one of the reasons why he's one of the longest running employees there, because he knows what they want to see from him.
I can tell you firsthand that Vince absolutely loves Truth. Loves him.
Oh, I could imagine he does.
And that's what's up.